It was Super Bowl Sunday night, and the big game festivities had finished an hour or so earlier. A busy bar in Key West, Florida, Conch Liquor and Lounge, was serving a crowd of hangers-on and those who didn't have to be somewhere early the next morning. A group of 3 young men get up from their drinks and head out the back door leading into the parking lot behind the bar. A middle-aged man, the owner of this strip mall, gets up and follows them. Minutes later, as things moved into the early hours of Monday, there were shots from behind the building. A shot was fired, followed by 2 more in quick succession. One young man's life would pour out into that parking lot, and another man's life would be changed forever. What had happened and why? Let's look together into the shooting of Garrett Hughes on that fateful night. Before we begin, we would like to send our deepest sympathies to the family of Garrett Hughes, who lost their son on that night. This case, we would like to mention, has yet to be decided in a court of law, and until such a time, all defendants are presumed innocent until proven otherwise. It is our desire to offer you the preliminary evidence and the chance to see how just a few seconds can determine whether a life ends or doesn't based on the actions of those involved. Was this murder or was it self-defense? Was this negligence based on alcohol or just a terrible, irrevocable accident?
Yes, hello. I just shot someone.
You just shot someone? Who did you shoot?
I don't know. What is your name? Garrett Hughes. Garrett Hughes.
Okay. Why'd you shoot him?
He came at me aggressively in my parking lot at Conch.
Okay, we have units en route. You said he approached you aggressively?
Yes.
Are you the owner of Conch?
Yes. Please send ambulance.
Yes, there's units en route. Is he awake?
Yes. Are you awake?
Okay, do me a favor. I need you to put the weapon away. Can you do that for me?
Yes, the weapon is set aside.
Okay, there's a unit pulling up right now, okay? Can you tell me where you hurt him, where you injured? Where?
In the stomach. Fireman's there. I'm here.
Sir, are you with the officer?
Yes.
Popular hangout in Key West, a town known for its partying atmosphere, Conchtown is located at North Roosevelt Boulevard, separated by the waterfront by a roadway and a picturesque line of palm trees. An International House of Pancakes sits to one side and a Wendy's is on the other. It could well be one of those perfect spots to catch a couple of drinks, take in a game, and then get some late-night food with friends afterwards. There's even a drive-through window for the attached liquor store. It's the kind of place that caters to locals, but even more so to the island's many visitors. On this particular night, 21-year-old Garrett Hughes, his brother Carson, and a friend, Logan Manuel Pellissier, had been drinking at Conchtown and enjoying themselves. Hughes, called Cheeto by some of his friends, was a likable young man who had been a star athlete in football and track at Key West High School.
Good. Garrett Hughes with the quarterback.
Now in his early 20s, he had started training as a fireman and also spent time volunteering as a coach at his old high school and at nearby Horace O'Brien High School as well. An avid fisherman and diver, he was a busy outdoorsman who had grown up in Key West since his parents had moved there when he was just 1 year old. This was his hometown. He was active in the community and generally known as a good kid in the area. Tonight, though, he was drunk and having a good time. Also in that bar that evening was Lloyd Preston Brewer III, a 57-year-old businessman who had deep roots in the community as well. Brewer had come to Conchtown to watch the championship game that night with his niece and her boyfriend. After the game was over, his niece and her boyfriend left, and Brewer stayed around in hopes of maybe picking up a girl from the bar. Over the course of the evening, Brewer admitted to having 3 beers. Brewer was also the owner of the shopping center strip that held Conchtown and a couple of other attached stores. This was literally his part of town, you could say, and he appears to have taken an owner's interest in the goings-on of the area. Just after midnight, Brewer said that he began to notice something. Let's look at his description of the event as taken from the body cam of Key West Police Department Detective Marcus Del Valle, who interrogated Brewer after the arrest later that morning.
I noticed there was a lot of activity going to and from the back door.
Okay.
As we have discussed in the past,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
So I went out back to just see what was going on. As you know, I am armed. Nature of my business, my property.
All right.
I went out back and there was not one, this was not a drug dealer, I don't think, just a guy. And he had buddies with him, and there were cars, but he was in between two cars. There were people on either side, and I guess they were all together. I don't know. They hadn't come from inside the bar. I don't know where they came from. And he's pissing in the parking lot.
Okay.
And on the building. And I said, man, can't you just go I'll be honest, can't you just go in the fucking bar and piss in the toilet? And we exchanged words. And as it progressed, he became more agitated and approached me. And I said, look, I own this. Stop. He continued to approach me. I said, I'm armed. It appeared as though he was reaching for something. The first shot went off this way. The second shot went off up in the air. To the best of my recollection, he was already on top of me. It would happen that fast.
Okay.
At this time, there appears to be no prior knowledge or connection between Brewer and Hughes before this night. Hughes had only come of legal drinking age in November of 2022, just a few months before. Immediately after the shooting, Brewer calls 911 and places his firearm, a 9mm semi-automatic pistol, on the hood of a nearby car. As Hughes' friends check on him, Brewer waits on the police and rescue workers to arrive. The police arrive and secure the location. An ambulance team and EMTs immediately begin to work on Hughes. They transport the mortally wounded young man to the hospital, where he was pronounced dead from the gunshot wound, just 25 minutes after the incident took place. Brewer would be held at the scene for a while, then brought to the Key West Police Department for booking. It was nearly sunrise when he would be interrogated about what happened. Brewer appears to have at least a professional passing acquaintance with Detective Del Valle, probably over incidents that had happened in and around his property over the years. At the time, Brewer signs away the rights to a lawyer being present. Detective Del Valle even allows Brewer to borrow his reading glasses to be able to read the documents that were provided. Brewer began to make a case for standing his ground.
It was that fast. It was on my property. I stood my ground. I feared for my life. Period.
Okay.
Brewer would then describe the back and forth that was spoken between himself and Hughes before the shooting.
We were going back, like, who the fuck are you? We were just going back and forth on this thing. And it just, that fast.
Okay.
It was not a long, drawn-out process. It really wasn't. Because if it had been, then his buddies that were here would have, had they all come in together and had been a fist fight, things might have ended differently. But that dude was agitated already. I mean, you can test me for drugs or whatever. I don't know. I swear I hope he's okay.
At this time, Brewer has not been told that Hughes had died. He does not know this has moved into a much more serious situation, one where a charge of murder is a distinct possibility. He continues with his description of the event, reinforcing his take on it being defensive.
I hit him in the abdomen. I don't think I hit him with the second shot, because the second shot went in the air. It was that fast.
Detective Del Valle asks if there was any kind of hand-to-hand contact between the two men. Were any punches thrown or any attempts to grab?
Was there any contact with you on him? Did you grab him? Did he grab you? Was there any hand contact?
Not to my recollection.
Okay.
It happened so fast, but when somebody's coming at you that fast,
I got you.
It doesn't matter.
All right.
Now, if we're going to get into very minute particulars, that's what I'm going to ask for a lawyer.
Okay.
Because I'm telling you the overall scope of what happened. And the reason I asked for you is you understand the dynamics of that establishment.
Yes, I do.
And so you know I'm armed all the time. Nature of my business and what goes on back there. And really all I was doing was walking through here to see what was going on, to give you a call if something was happening.
All right.
That's it.
Over the next few minutes, Brewer is asked to go over the event again and again as the detective drills down into the little details of the confrontation. He comes back around to the moment when Brewer made the fateful decision to discharge his firearm.
At what point did you draw on him? Was it here?
When I fired, he was about this close. Because I fired on him. It appeared as though he was reaching for something, and he's coming at me. And by the time he got that close, I fired, and he's on top of me.
Okay. Did he fall on you?
He came, yeah.
Or did he,
My second shot went in the air.
Okay, so were you,
He was on me.
you fell on the ground? Do you remember if you fell on the ground and fell back?
Yeah, he came at me. Yeah, because I got up, but he wasn't on top of me by the time it all ended. He was on the ground.
Okay.
Given the chance to state and restate what has happened, Brewer's take on the incident has been laid out. He then begins attempting to manage the situation and how it should be approached.
Right.
And I'm going to maintain stand your ground all day long. I mean, it's my parking lot. He's coming at me. What I hope comes out of this, I understand your job. And I understand friends don't cross that line for your job. I think this is a case for a grand jury.
Well, that's what we're here. Do you know my job?
Yep. I think this is a case for a grand jury to investigate all of the facts.
This is something that we get all the facts. We get everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We put everything together.
And you know I'm not going
before we
anywhere.
do anything,
I don't want to go to jail tonight, but you know I'm not going anywhere. So you take it to a grand jury.
That's up to the state.
Next, Brewer asks for special handling from the local police.
So here's what I would ask. If you want to hold me for whatever reason, give me 3 or 4 days. Here's why. I'm a one-man shop. I've got to pay estimated taxes. I'm the only one that can do it.
Okay.
I've got to be at my office. I don't care if you come and sit with me to make sure I don't go anywhere.
Right.
But I've got to be able to do that.
It's only after a half hour of interrogation and the long wait beforehand that Brewer finally gets around to wondering what had become of Hughes, the young man he had shot in the parking lot.
Can I ask you how that fellow's doing?
Right now, he's critical.
Fuck.
The detective doesn't answer, then leaves the room to process some paperwork and to check on a request for medications that Brewer said he needed. There is a long wait, and Detective Del Valle comes back in for one final run at questioning to give Brewer one last chance to state how the final moments of the conflict played out. Brewer sticks to his story.
Before we go, just one question I want to ask, because once we get everything and go to the state. When the guy came, you said the guy came towards you, do you remember anything or any type of threatening things that he told you or anything that he made actions? I know you said he grabbed you something.
He was coming to aggressively get me. He was taller than I was.
All right. Did he show anything, like, did you remember anything, hand maneuvers, hand things? Do you remember anything?
It was just that fast, no.
Okay, all right.
After that, the detective informs him that it is time for them to do what they need to do and get him moved over to the local hospital where he can be given his prescription medication and have a blood alcohol test administered on him. As they ready him for the move, Detective Del Valle lets Brewer know what has happened to Hughes.
All right, Preston. Just so you know, I'm always up front with you. Walking with you. The hospital had contacted us a little bit ago. I just talked to the detective that was out there, and the kid did pass away. So I just want to let you know that. All right. Unfortunate thing, but I got to tell you, I've known you too long, and there's no need to hold anything back. But we're going to do the blood draw. They'll give you your medication out there, and then while you're doing that, we're going to do what we got to do, and then see what avenue the state wants to take. Okay? All right. They'll take you now. The gentleman that were downstairs will take you out there.
Police detectives and those on the scene gave Brewer a chance to tell his side of the story, but Hughes would never have that opportunity. Instead, that job would fall greatly on the CCTV footage from the scene. The footage was shot by cameras owned and installed by Brewer's family to protect their property. In watching the security footage, you can see Hughes walking or staggering across the parking lot, shirtless and apparently drinking deeply from a bottle or can. Hughes then walks between two cars on the opposite side of the parking lot and begins to urinate on the wall of a different building, named the Peacock Plaza. The plaza is owned by a different family and is separate physically and legally from the one that houses Conchtown Liquor. Brewer emerges from off-screen from Conchtown's back door at the left side of the screen. He stops for a second, seems to assess the situation, turns back towards Hughes' companions, exchanges words with them, and then turns back. You can see him begin drawing a weapon here, some 40 feet away from Hughes. Hughes still appears to have his back turned to Brewer. Brewer now advances across the parking lot towards Hughes. The handgun has apparently already been drawn and is pointing towards the young man, who now turns and takes a couple of steps forward. Words are exchanged between the two, and one of Hughes' companions moves closer to the center of the lot. He seems to be trying to get Brewer's attention. Hughes takes another lurching step forward, and Brewer steps back. Then Brewer, not Hughes, advances aggressively, gun out, and fires at Hughes. The shot was fired at nearly point-blank range. The two fall to the ground, and at last look, it appears that Brewer may well have been the one on top. Police forensics on the scene would later say that Brewer had fired a total of 3 shots, not the 2 that he remembered. The case now rests on the differences between Brewer's explanation of the event and the video taken from the scene that does not exactly back up his account. What is known is that a shirtless, drunk, unarmed young man was killed in the parking lot that night. The video does not seem to give any indication that Hughes was acting aggressively, but we cannot hear the words that are being exchanged between them. Other witnesses on the scene will have to provide that information when the case comes to court. A case could be made for Brewer under Florida's Stand Your Ground law had he stayed in the center of the lot where he paused for a moment, gun drawn and exchanging words. At that moment, he was in a defensible position and could be considered in command of the situation. Then he advances another 15 to 20 feet as Hughes apparently zipped up and turned around. At that point, any step forward, even a drunken stagger from Hughes, could easily be misinterpreted as a threatening move, whether it was or not. Even Brewer at this point would later admit that he could tell Hughes was unarmed. Hughes reaching for his waistband could easily be determined to be the young man just adjusting his pants after he had finished urinating. Perhaps Hughes' companion that advanced out and into the open area of the parking lot had triggered Brewer's fight-or-flight reflex, perceiving him to be an additional threat. Whatever the cause, the trigger was pulled and every life there either ended or changed irrevocably in just the next few seconds. Brewer is currently being held without bond after pleading not guilty to second-degree murder in the death of Hughes and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon for threatening Carson Hughes, and a federal misdemeanor charge of carrying a firearm in an establishment whose primary purpose is the sale and consumption of alcohol. If convicted on the second-degree murder charge, Brewer could receive a sentence of 25 years to life, and it is subject to mandatory minimum sentencing rules due to the death being caused by a firearm. Locally, the death of Garrett Hughes was met with great sadness in the community. He was remembered as a popular young man and volunteer with the community's youth. A benefit concert was held in his name at Key West's Coffee Butler Amphitheater, with a number of local celebrities performing. Over 2,000 people attended, and over $50,000 was raised for a scholarship fund established in his name. Once again, we at Beyond Evil present this case as an opportunity to examine a current case and to look at the ramifications, both legal and social, that it presents. As this case is still waiting to be decided before a judge and possibly a jury, please understand that we offer no legal advice, judgments, or opinions, and just strive to provide the facts and evidence that are available at this time. If you found this case compelling, don't forget to like the video, comment down below your take on it, and please subscribe to the channel. Less than half of the viewers of our videos are subscribers. Subscribing is easy, and it makes a huge difference in our ability to continue to provide you with top-quality true crime content. Also, hit the notification bell in order to stay up to date each time we reveal a new, shocking case. And until next time, stay safe and keep your eyes peeled. You never know what's lurking in the shadows.